Have you ever met someone and felt, in the deepest corners of your heart, that you already knew them? Not just in a casual way, but as if your souls were intertwined long before this lifetime, through memories you can't recall, through emotions that feel eerily familiar? That is the essence of encountering your twin flame. It's not always the romantic fairy tale type of connection we imagine. It is often raw, intense, and transformational, and sometimes it brings us face to face with the most challenging aspects of ourselves. Our fears, our wounds, and our limits. Imagine this: you meet someone. The connection is instant, undeniable. The way they look at you makes your chest tighten, as if your very soul recognizes them. Every word they speak resonates with something deep inside you, something almost forgotten, a memory of love, of trust, perhaps even of loss from a past life. It feels magnetic, like you are drawn together by an invisible force you cannot explain. And yet, the very intensity of this connection carries a double edge. It tests you in ways you never anticipated. This is the paradox of a twin flame. They are mirrors. They reflect not only your light, but your shadow. And when boundaries are pushed, when betrayal, misunderstanding, or separation enters the picture, they can awaken feelings you didn't even know were there. Feelings that echo from childhood, from old wounds, from expectations that society, your family, or even your own ego has placed upon you. Let's pause here for a moment. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that their absence, even for a brief moment, feels like a physical pain? Or have you ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, only to discover that their actions were not aligned with your expectations or hopes? Now imagine that same scenario amplified, not by days or weeks, but by the intensity of a soul connection. That is the terrain you enter when a twin flame challenges your boundaries. Consider the story of Maya. She met her twin flame during a time in her life when she thought she had already healed from her past. He was charismatic, intelligent, and remarkably intuitive. From the very first conversation, Maya felt a magnetic pull, a certainty that this was someone who had existed in her life before, someone who knew her at a level no one else had. Yet, despite the profound connection, there were moments of unpredictability, moments when he seemed distant, evasive, even dismissive of her feelings. It hurt deeply. Every act of withdrawal felt like a betrayal, and each time Maya found herself questioning, is this love, or am I being tested? This is the first lesson of encountering a twin flame. The boundary between love and suffering is often blurred. They come into our lives not just to love us but to challenge us. They expose the cracks in our hearts, the places where we have unresolved pain, and the parts of ourselves that still cling to control, expectation, or fear. When a twin flame betrays, or even when they unintentionally hurt us, it is rarely about malice. It is about reflection. They are holding up a mirror, showing us our own unresolved emotions, our attachment patterns, and our deepest insecurities. Think about it. How often have you reacted with anger, jealousy, or despair in relationships? How often have you felt the sudden sting of abandonment, or the shock of disappointment, when someone didn't meet your expectations? Now, in a twin flame connection, these feelings are amplified. The intensity of the bond doesn't just bring joy, it magnifies pain. And this is precisely why so many people either cannot handle a twin flame connection or misinterpret it as toxic or destructive. But here's the paradox, and here's the truth that many fail to see: the pain is part of the lesson. It is part of the journey toward self-awareness, inner healing, and ultimately unconditional love. When we encounter betrayal or distance from a twin flame, we are given a profound opportunity to examine our attachments. Are we clinging because of fear? Are we trying to control the relationship or the person? Are we willing to face our own ego, our inner child, and the parts of ourselves that feel unworthy of love? And this is where the question becomes critical. Can you love someone without being bound to them? Can you honor their free will even when it brings you pain? Can you remain whole even if they walk away? These are the questions that every twin flame journey presents, sometimes immediately, sometimes gradually, but always inevitably. Let me take you back to Maya's story. After months of emotional turbulence, after feeling betrayed, hurt, and confused, she realized something profound. The connection wasn't about control or possession. It was about learning how to remain centered, how to honor her own heart, and how to allow another soul the space to be themselves. In the moments when she surrendered, not giving up on love but giving up the need to manipulate, control, or cling, she discovered a freedom she had never known. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but it transformed. It became a teacher rather than a tormentor. This is the essence of the opening experience with the twin flame. It is intense, it is sometimes painful, and it is deeply revealing. From the first encounter, you are thrust into a journey that asks you to confront your ego, your inner child wounds, and your capacity to surrender. And it all begins with that initial recognition, the feeling that you have met someone you have known before, someone whose presence awakens both joy and fear, love and pain, freedom and attachment, all at once. By the end of this video, my goal is to guide you through these layers: ego, inner child, healing, and surrender. I want you to understand that the challenges presented by a twin flame, betrayal, distance, or even abandonment, are not signs that the connection is wrong. Rather, they are invitations to grow, to heal, and to love more freely. And perhaps most importantly, to learn that the truest form of love begins within yourself. So, as we step into this journey together, I ask you, are you ready to face the truth of your own heart? Are you willing to explore the ways in which love can challenge, stretch, and transform you? And most crucially, can you love without being bound, without losing yourself in the process? If you've ever felt the intensity of meeting a twin flame, the magnetic pull, the inexplicable recognition, the heartbreak that comes when boundaries are tested, then you already know the answer is not simple, but it is possible. And it begins with awareness, reflection, and a willingness to embrace both the light and shadow of love. Let's embark on this journey together, exploring the lessons hidden within betrayal, the power of self-healing, and the transformative freedom that comes from surrender. Your twin flame may test your boundaries, but through that test, you may discover the deepest love of all, the love that resides within you. After the initial shock of meeting a twin flame and feeling that instant soul-deep recognition, the next stage is often the most challenging: confronting your ego. The ego is that part of ourselves that clings to control, that seeks validation, that wants love to be predictable and safe. When a twin flame enters your life, it often triggers the ego in ways you might never have expected. This is because twin flames reflect back to us our deepest fears, insecurities, and unresolved desires. Imagine this scenario. You feel deeply connected to your twin flame, yet for some reason they distance themselves. Perhaps they are caught up in their own life challenges, or maybe they act in ways that hurt you, ignoring your messages, breaking promises, or showing affection inconsistently. Your immediate reaction might be anger, confusion, or even a desire to control the situation. These are ego-driven responses, and they are natural. The ego wants to protect the self from pain. It wants reassurance, certainty, and stability. But in the realm of twin flames, the ego is often challenged to its core because this connection rarely conforms to comfort or predictability. Let's take the story of Liam as an example. Liam met his twin flame during a period when he considered himself emotionally independent and strong. He thought he understood love, trust, loyalty, and clear boundaries. When he first connected with his twin flame, everything seemed perfect. There was passion, deep conversations, and a feeling of being completely known. But soon cracks appeared. His twin flame made decisions that didn't align with Liam's expectations. They spent time with others without explanation, expressed emotions differently than Liam anticipated, or withdrew emotionally at times. Liam's ego reacted immediately. He felt hurt, betrayed, and anxious. Questions flooded his mind. Why are they doing this? Do they not care about me? Am I not enough? This is a classic ego response. The ego measures love through actions that match expectations. It seeks reassurance externally, rather than finding stability within. In the context of a twin flame, this approach almost always leads to suffering. Why? Because twin flames are designed to awaken us, not to fit neatly into our preconceptions of how love should be. When the ego is triggered, it often manifests in a few key ways. 1. Possessiveness. Feeling the need to control your twin flame's actions or emotions. If they truly love me, they will act this way. 2. Jealousy. Reacting negatively to their interactions with others, comparing yourself to anyone in their life. 3. Overthinking. constantly analyzing their words and behaviors, searching for hidden meanings or signs of betrayal. 4. Anger and resentment, lashing out or feeling wronged when the connection doesn't meet your expectations. 5. Clinging, attempting to hold on to them even when the relationship feels unstable or painful. Each of these reactions is the ego trying to protect itself from the fear of abandonment and rejection. And in the context of a twin flame, these fears are amplified because the connection touches something primal. The recognition that this soul is deeply significant, potentially a mirror of your own highest self and deepest vulnerabilities. But here's the crucial lesson. The ego is not your enemy. It is a messenger. It signals the areas of your inner world that are still unresolved, that crave healing. The pain and frustration the ego produces are opportunities to examine your attachments, expectations, and sense of self-worth. This is why twin flame relationships can feel so intense. They push you to confront parts of yourself you might otherwise avoid. Returning to Liam's story, after months of struggle, he realized that his ego was driving much of his suffering. He began to notice patterns. Whenever he felt rejected or confused, his mind immediately went to worst-case scenarios. His inner dialogue was full of blame and judgment, not just toward his twin flame but also toward himself. Why am I feeling so insecure? Why can't I handle this better? He recognized that these thoughts weren't a reflection of his twin flame's behavior, but of his own unresolved fears and old wounds. This insight led him to an important step: awareness. Awareness is the first stage in transforming ego-driven suffering into conscious growth. By observing the ego without judgment, Liam started to differentiate between his fears and the reality of the situation. He asked himself, is my fear based on facts, or is it a projection of past pain? This simple shift began to change the dynamic. He no longer reacted impulsively or demanded immediate validation. Instead, he created space for reflection, understanding, and compassion, for both himself and his twin flame. The next layer involves self-worth. The ego often ties our sense of value to the approval or attention of others, particularly in romantic relationships. In a twin flame connection, this becomes painfully clear because the intensity of the bond exposes insecurities. If you feel less than, or if you rely on your twin flame to fill gaps in self-esteem, you will inevitably experience suffering. The solution is radical yet simple. Reclaim your sense of self. Recognize that your worth does not depend on another person's actions, feelings, or availability. This is easier said than done, but it is a transformative practice that lies at the heart of ego mastery. Consider the metaphor of two mirrors. A twin flame relationship is like standing between two mirrors that reflect not just your image, but every detail of your inner world, light and shadow alike. The ego reacts when it sees shadows, old insecurities, unmet needs, and fears of abandonment. The challenge is to step back, observe the reflection without judgment, and realize that what you see is not a permanent reality. It is a mirror showing you what needs attention. Healing the ego in a twin flame context often involves practices such as mindfulness and meditation, observing thoughts and emotions without attachment, journaling, writing down feelings of jealousy, anger, or fear to understand their roots, boundary setting, learning when to say no or step back, rather than forcing connection, self-compassion, treating yourself with the kindness you wish to receive from others, reframing viewing perceived betrayal or distance as opportunities for growth, not punishment. These practices help transform the ego from a source of suffering into a guide for personal growth. When the ego is healed, the twin flame connection can shift from reactive pain to conscious, mature love. Love that is not possessive, desperate, or fear-driven, but free and empowering. Finally, the ego lesson in twin flame relationships is ultimately about freedom. True freedom comes from loving without clinging, from honoring your own boundaries while respecting the autonomy of another. It is the ability to remain whole, even when the person you deeply care for acts in ways that challenge or hurt you. This is the paradox of twin flame love. The intensity that causes suffering is the same intensity that can lead to liberation. Liam's journey illustrates this beautifully. By facing his ego, he learned to respond to his twin flame with awareness rather than reaction. He discovered that his suffering was not caused by his twin flame, but by his attachment to control, certainty, and validation. When he embraced this truth, the connection became less about proving love or being enough, and more about mutual growth, self-discovery, and the cultivation of inner peace. So, as you navigate your own twin flame journey, ask yourself, when my ego is triggered, what am I really afraid of? Is it the other person, or my own feelings of unworthiness? Can I allow love to exist without needing to control it? These questions are the gateway to understanding, healing, and ultimately, experiencing a connection that is as liberating as it is transformative. Because the truth is this: the challenges your twin flame brings are not obstacles, they are mirrors. They reveal the unhealed parts of your ego, the insecurities buried deep within your heart, and the fears that have shaped your approach to love. When you face these challenges consciously with awareness and courage, you step into a love that is not defined by attachment, possession, or fear, but by presence, freedom, and the transformative power of your own awakening. As we continue our journey through the labyrinth of a twin flame connection, we move beyond the ego and into an even deeper layer: the inner child. While the ego reacts to betrayal, distance, or unpredictability by seeking control and reassurance, the inner child responds in a more vulnerable, emotional, and often unconscious way. The inner child carries the memories of past hurts, rejections, and fears that we may not even consciously recall, but that influence our reactions and beliefs about love profoundly. Imagine this: you are deeply connected to your twin flame, and something happens that triggers a familiar pain, perhaps a withdrawal, a perceived rejection, or a harsh word. Immediately, you feel a sinking in your chest, a panic in your stomach, or a rush of tears. It's not just the present moment that hurts. It is the echo of all the times you felt abandoned, unseen, or unloved as a child. That is your inner child speaking. It is resurfacing because the intensity of a twin flame connection acts like a mirror, reflecting not only your adult self but the parts of you that were wounded long ago. Consider the story of Sophia. Sophia had a history of feeling unseen and neglected as a child. Her parents were loving in their way, but emotional expression was limited, and she often felt that her needs for comfort and reassurance went unmet. When she met her twin flame, she was thrilled by the immediate magnetic connection. He was attentive, intuitive, and profoundly empathetic, but as the connection deepened, moments of withdrawal or miscommunication activated Sophia's inner child. Whenever he seemed distant, Sophia would feel the old, familiar ache of abandonment. Even small actions like not responding to a text quickly triggered disproportionate fear and anxiety. This is the hallmark of the inner child at work. It interprets present circumstances through the lens of past wounds. While the adult mind may understand rationally that a delayed message or a withdrawn behavior does not mean abandonment, the inner child does not differentiate between past and present. It reacts emotionally, often overwhelming the adult mind with feelings of unworthiness, fear, or despair. The inner child's response can manifest in several ways within a twin flame relationship. 1. Fear of abandonment, feeling that any distance or lack of attention signals rejection. 2. Clinginess, attempting to secure constant reassurance or validation. 3. Emotional overreaction, experiencing intense jealousy, anger, or sadness over minor perceived slights. 4. Self-blame, believing that the other person's actions are your fault, or that you are not enough. 5. Regression, falling into behaviors reminiscent of childhood, tantrums, withdrawal, or extreme people-pleasing. Recognizing the inner child's influence is critical, because it helps us separate what belongs to the past from what is happening in the present. Twin flames act as catalysts, often triggering these old wounds, not to punish us, but to bring them into awareness so that they can be healed. Let's return to Sophia. She began noticing patterns. Every time her twin flame seemed emotionally unavailable, a familiar panic and sadness arose within her. Initially, she blamed him, her ego fueling thoughts like, "Why does he treat me this way? Does he even care?" But through introspection and guidance, Sophia realized that these intense reactions were not just about her twin flame. They were echoes of her unmet emotional needs from childhood. Her inner child had been activated, seeking reassurance and safety that had been inconsistent for years. Healing the inner child in a twin flame context requires more than rational understanding. It requires compassion, acknowledgement, and nurturing. One cannot simply tell the inner child, "Stop feeling this way," and expect emotional pain to vanish. Instead, we must create a dialogue with this vulnerable part of ourselves, validating its feelings while gently guiding it towards safety and self-love. Several practices can help in nurturing the inner child. Inner child meditation. Visualize the younger version of yourself and offer comfort, reassurance, and love. Speak to the child in your mind as you would to a beloved child in real life. Journaling. Write letters from your adult self to your inner child, acknowledging past pain, offering support, and reminding yourself that you are safe now. Self-compassion exercises. Each time the inner child is triggered, pause and respond with kindness rather than judgment. Affirm, "I see you. I hear you. You are safe." Identifying triggers. Notice what actions or words from your twin flame activate childhood pain, and consciously separate past wounds from present reality. Therapeutic work. Professional support, such as inner child therapy, can guide deep healing and integration of past trauma. Healing the inner child is transformative because it shifts the foundation of your relationship with your twin flame. Instead of reacting from fear, the adult self can respond with clarity, empathy, and understanding. You no longer need external validation to feel safe. You carry that safety within yourself. Sophia's journey illustrates this beautifully. As she began connecting with her inner child, she discovered the root of her emotional triggers. She realized that her intense anxiety when her twin flame seemed distant wasn't a reflection of his love or commitment. It was a reflection of her unmet childhood needs. By nurturing her inner child, she could meet these feelings with compassion, offering herself the comfort and reassurance she had longed for as a child. In doing so, she created space for the twin flame relationship to exist without constant fear or desperation. Another critical lesson of the inner child and twin flame dynamics is the interplay between vulnerability and power. The inner child is inherently vulnerable. It seeks love, safety, and acceptance. But within this vulnerability lies the potential for immense personal power. By acknowledging and healing the inner child, you reclaim emotional autonomy. You no longer allow external actions to dictate your self-worth. You no longer feel compelled to manipulate, chase, or cling. Instead, you engage in the connection from a place of centeredness, love, and conscious choice. The inner child also teaches us about empathy and compassion. When we recognize our own woundedness, we become more understanding of our twin flame's vulnerabilities. Perhaps they, too, carry an inner child that influences their reactions, fears, and behaviors. Twin flame connections often reflect back to us not only our wounds but also our capacity to love beyond fear, to extend compassion, and to create a safe emotional container for both partners. Finally, the inner child's lesson leads naturally to the next stages of healing. Learning to surrender, releasing attachment, and embracing unconditional love. Once the ego has been understood and the inner child nurtured, we can begin to experience the connection with our twin flame without losing ourselves. We can witness betrayal or distance, not as a threat to our survival or worth, but as an invitation to grow, heal, and deepen our capacity for love. So, as you reflect on your own twin flame journey, ask yourself, what old wounds are being activated in this connection? How does my inner child interpret the actions of my twin flame? Am I responding from fear, or from a place of conscious love? By facing these questions honestly, you step into a new level of awareness, one where you are not controlled by past pain but are empowered by healing, compassion, and self-love. Because the truth is this: every reaction, every tear, every pang of fear is not a failure. It is an opportunity. It is your inner child calling for attention, for love, and for integration. When you respond consciously, you not only heal yourself, but you also transform the twin flame connection from a source of pain into a catalyst for profound spiritual and emotional growth. In the next part, we will explore healing practices in depth, showing how awareness of ego and inner child can lead to practical steps for emotional restoration, self-love, and the ability to navigate twin flame challenges without losing yourself. After confronting the ego and recognizing the inner child's wounds, the next stage in the twin flame journey is healing. Healing is not a linear process, nor is it something that happens overnight. It is an ongoing practice of self-awareness, compassion, and conscious choice. In the context of a twin flame connection, healing allows you to navigate intense emotions, such as betrayal, abandonment, or fear of loss, without being consumed by them. It is the bridge between suffering and freedom, between reactive attachment and conscious love. Consider the story of Ethan, who met his twin flame during a period of personal growth. Their connection was electric, intense, and transformative, but it was also fraught with challenges. At times, Ethan felt betrayed when his twin flame acted in ways he did not anticipate, making decisions independently or expressing emotions differently than he expected. Initially, Ethan's ego reacted with anger, and his inner child felt abandoned and unloved. The intensity of these feelings left him overwhelmed, uncertain if he could continue the connection without losing himself. This is where healing begins, by acknowledging the pain rather than resisting it. Healing is not about suppressing emotions or pretending that everything is fine. It is about facing the truth of your feelings and embracing them with compassion. For Ethan, the first step was awareness. He started noticing patterns in his reactions. When he felt abandoned or rejected, he could trace it back to unresolved childhood wounds or ego-driven expectations. Awareness allowed him to pause before reacting, creating space for conscious reflection instead of impulsive responses. One of the most powerful aspects of healing in twin flame relationships is emotional integration. Emotional integration means recognizing that your feelings, no matter how intense or uncomfortable, are valid expressions of your inner experience. You do not need to judge yourself for feeling hurt, jealous, or fearful. Instead, you observe these emotions, name them, and explore their roots. This process transforms pain into insight, helping you understand not only your reactions but also your deeper needs and boundaries. Healing also involves self-compassion. When your twin flame triggers old wounds, it is easy to fall into self-blame. Why am I feeling this way? Why can't I handle this better? These thoughts, though common, only deepen suffering. Self-compassion teaches us to treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer to a child in distress. Ethan began practicing self-compassion by reminding himself, "It is okay to feel hurt. It is okay to feel uncertain. I am allowed to take care of myself." These affirmations became a powerful tool, softening the harsh voice of the ego and comforting the inner child. Another essential component of healing is setting healthy boundaries. Twin flame connections can be overwhelming because the intensity of the bond makes it difficult to distinguish where one person ends and the other begins. Boundaries help maintain emotional balance. For instance, if Ethan felt drained by constant messaging or emotional intensity, he learned to communicate his needs clearly. "I need some time to process my feelings. I will reach out when I am ready." Setting boundaries is not a rejection. It is a form of self-respect and a way to ensure that the connection remains conscious and sustainable. Healing practices in the context of twin flames can take many forms, depending on what resonates with the individual. Some common approaches include: 1. Mindfulness and meditation. These practices help observe thoughts and emotions without judgment. By sitting quietly and noticing sensations, feelings, and mental chatter, you create a sense of inner stability. Mindfulness allows you to respond to challenges from a place of calm awareness rather than reactive emotion. 2. Journaling. Writing down your experiences, emotions, and reflections provides clarity and insight. Journaling helps trace patterns, uncover triggers, and release pent-up emotions in a safe, contained way. For Ethan, journaling became a daily ritual that allowed him to process betrayal, disappointment, and longing constructively. 3. Therapeutic support. Professional guidance, such as counseling or inner child therapy, can facilitate deep healing. A therapist can help you identify unconscious patterns, navigate emotional triggers, and develop tools for self-regulation and conscious engagement in the relationship. 4. Energy healing. Practices like Reiki, breathwork, or chakra alignment can support emotional release and energetic balance. Many twin flame seekers report that these practices help clear blocks and restore a sense of inner peace. 5. Creative expression. Art, music, dance, or other creative outlets can help process emotions that are difficult to verbalize. Expressing pain, love, or longing through creativity allows the inner world to be acknowledged and integrated. Healing also involves reframing the narrative of the twin flame connection. When betrayal or distance occurs, the instinct may be to label the situation as failure, rejection, or abandonment. Healing invites a new perspective. These challenges are not punishments, but opportunities for growth. They are lessons in self-love, patience, and conscious engagement. Ethan learned to view moments of disconnection not as a reflection of his worth, but as invitations to strengthen his emotional resilience, trust in the process, and deepen his capacity for unconditional love. An often overlooked aspect of healing in twin flame dynamics is the alignment of the heart and mind. The heart desires closeness, intimacy, and connection, while the mind seeks logic, clarity, and reassurance. Healing is the process of harmonizing these two aspects of the self. When the heart and mind are aligned, emotional triggers are met with conscious reflection rather than automatic reaction. Ethan practiced this by pausing before responding to his twin flame during emotionally charged moments. He asked himself, "Am I reacting from fear or am I choosing love? Am I engaging from my higher self or my wounded self?" Through consistent healing practices, a profound shift occurs. Pain transforms into empowerment. Instead of feeling controlled by the intensity of the connection, you begin to navigate it from a place of inner stability. You are no longer a passive participant in the emotional turbulence. You are an active, conscious co-creator of the relational experience. This empowerment does not remove the challenges, they remain, but it changes how you experience them. Healing also cultivates forgiveness, not necessarily of the other person but of yourself. Many twin flame seekers hold guilt or shame for feeling hurt, jealous, or insecure. Healing teaches that these feelings are natural and valid. Forgiving yourself for these reactions opens the door to true self-acceptance and paves the way for compassionate engagement with your twin flame. Finally, healing prepares you for the ultimate step in the twin flame journey: surrender. Once the ego is understood and the inner child nurtured, you are ready to release attachment, expectation, and control. Healing provides the foundation for surrender, allowing love to exist freely, without clinging or desperation. Ethan's journey illustrates this beautifully. As he healed his past wounds, he found that he could experience the connection fully without being consumed by fear or insecurity. The bond became a space for growth, mutual support, and conscious love rather than pain and confusion. In conclusion, healing in a twin flame connection is a comprehensive process that encompasses self-awareness, inner child work, ego management, emotional integration, and compassionate action. It is not a one-time fix, but a continuous journey of reflection, practice, and conscious choice. Through healing, you reclaim your emotional autonomy, cultivate resilience, and prepare to engage in love that is free, conscious, and transformative. As we move to the next stage, surrender, we will explore how letting go of control, expectations, and attachment allows the twin flame connection to unfold naturally. Healing sets the stage for surrender. It is the foundation upon which freedom, unconditional love, and spiritual growth are built. Ask yourself now, am I ready to face my pain, nurture my inner child, and heal my emotional wounds? Can I allow myself to be whole, even as I navigate the intensity of this twin flame connection? Healing is the gateway to love without attachment, to presence without fear, and to freedom within the most challenging and transformative relationship of your life. After exploring the ego, confronting the inner child, and committing to healing, the next critical stage in the twin flame journey is surrender. Surrender is one of the most misunderstood aspects of spiritual and emotional growth. It does not mean giving up, resigning yourself to pain, or accepting mistreatment. Rather, surrender is the conscious release of control, expectation, and attachment to outcomes. In a twin flame connection, surrender allows you to experience love fully while remaining centered, grounded, and whole within yourself. Imagine standing in a river, trying to hold on to every rock along the riverbed. The current pulls, the water rises, and your grip is slipping. The harder you try to cling, the more exhausted and frustrated you become. Now imagine releasing your grip. Instead of fighting the current, you float, trusting that the water will carry you safely. This is surrender. In the context of a twin flame connection, surrender allows the flow of love, growth, and divine timing to unfold naturally. Consider the story of Ava, who had been deeply affected by her twin flame's unpredictability. Early in their connection, Ava tried to control every interaction: when he would call, how he would express affection, and even his choices in life. Whenever he acted independently, she felt a surge of fear, anger, and heartbreak. The ego reacted strongly, and her inner child felt rejected. Ava's attempts to hold, manipulate, or control the situation only intensified her suffering. It wasn't until Ava embraced the concept of surrender that a shift began to occur. She realized that she could not control another soul, nor should she attempt to dictate the path of the connection. Instead, she focused on controlling herself, her emotions, her reactions, and her attachment. She began to release expectations and allow her twin flame to be free, even if it meant facing uncertainty, distance, or the unknown. Surrender in a twin flame connection encompasses several layers. 1. Releasing attachment to outcomes. Often the ego wants a relationship to look or feel a certain way: constant closeness, affirmation, or predictable behavior. Surrender asks you to let go of these expectations. It does not mean you stop caring. It means you no longer let the desire for a specific outcome dictate your happiness. Ava learned to embrace the uncertainty, understanding that her twin flame's journey was as unique as her own. 2. Trusting divine timing. Twin flame connections operate on a timeline that may not align with our personal desires. Sometimes separations or delays are necessary for growth, self-reflection, or karmic resolution. Surrender involves trusting that these challenges are part of a greater plan. Ava began seeing moments of distance not as rejection, but as opportunities for both herself and her twin flame to evolve. 3. Embracing emotional presence. Surrender does not eliminate emotion. You may still feel pain, longing, or fear. The difference is that instead of reacting impulsively, you allow these feelings to exist and pass through you. You observe them with awareness and compassion, understanding that they are temporary waves in the vast ocean of your being. 4. Honoring boundaries. True surrender is not passive. It involves setting and respecting boundaries for yourself and others. This ensures that surrender is rooted in love, not self-neglect. Ava learned to communicate her needs clearly, step back when overwhelmed, and remain present without clinging. 5. Aligning with inner truth. Surrender requires alignment with your authentic self. It asks, am I acting from fear or from love? Am I holding on out of desperation or out of conscious choice? Ava discovered that surrender was possible only when she embraced her own power and sovereignty, acknowledging that her worth was not dependent on external validation. Surrender is deeply intertwined with healing. Without a foundation of emotional awareness and self-compassion, surrender can be mistaken for avoidance or resignation. Healing prepares the heart to let go without falling apart. It teaches that you can love someone fully without losing yourself, that presence and freedom are not mutually exclusive. One of the most profound aspects of surrender is the release of control over the twin flame's choices. Often we mistakenly believe that love means influencing or guiding another's actions to fit our desires. Surrender teaches that true love respects autonomy. Ava realized that her twin flame's choices, whether to communicate, express affection, or even step back temporarily, were not reflections of her worth or the depth of the connection. Letting go of control allowed the bond to exist in its purest form: mutual growth, respect, and unconditional love. Surrender also facilitates spiritual growth. Twin flame relationships are catalysts for awakening because they challenge us to confront fear, attachment, and expectation. By surrendering, we open ourselves to deeper levels of consciousness, empathy, and wisdom. Ava found that as she released her grip on outcomes, she became more attuned to her inner guidance, more compassionate toward herself and her twin flame, and more capable of experiencing joy independent of external circumstances. Another key component of surrender is forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about condoning actions or forgetting pain. It is about freeing yourself from the chains of resentment, anger, and bitterness. Ava discovered that harboring judgment toward her twin flame or herself only perpetuated suffering. By choosing forgiveness, she released the emotional weight and created space for healing, clarity, and love that was untainted by fear or expectation. Surrender also requires patience. The twin flame journey unfolds in stages, and rushing or forcing the connection only creates resistance. Trusting the process is essential. Ava learned to step back, breathe, and allow experiences to unfold naturally. She understood that every challenge, separation, or reunion carried a purpose, lessons for growth, healing, and deepening connection. Importantly, surrender allows you to cultivate love without attachment. Love in its highest form is not about possession, control, or dependency. It is about presence, acceptance, and respect for another soul's journey. By surrendering, Ava could experience the fullness of her twin flame bond without being consumed by fear, anxiety, or obsessive longing. Her love became a source of empowerment rather than suffering. Practical exercises for surrender in twin flame dynamics include mindful breathing. Pause and focus on your breath whenever you feel triggered. Allow the sensation of letting go to flow with each exhale. Affirmations of trust. Repeat statements like, I release the need to control. I trust the process. I honor my own path and theirs. Meditation on detachment. Visualize your emotions and attachments as leaves floating down a river, acknowledging them without holding on. Self-reflection. Regularly examine your motivations in the connection. Are you acting from fear or conscious love? Are you clinging? Or are you choosing freely? Surrender transforms the twin flame journey from a struggle into a path of freedom, empowerment, and conscious love. Ava's story shows us that when we release the need to control, we can experience intimacy without fear, presence without attachment, and love without limitation. The intensity of the connection remains, but it no longer dominates our emotional landscape. It becomes a mirror for growth, a teacher for self-mastery, and a channel for unconditional love. Finally, surrender is not a one-time act. It is a continuous practice. Each moment offers an opportunity to release expectations, embrace uncertainty, and choose love over fear. The deeper you surrender, the more you align with your authentic self and the spiritual purpose of the twin flame connection. As you reflect on your own twin flame journey, ask yourself, what am I holding on to? Where do I need to release control? Can I trust the process and allow love to flow freely without clinging or fear? Surrender is the gateway to experiencing a connection that is not only transformative but also liberating. An experience where love is abundant, untainted, and profoundly freeing. Because the truth is this, surrender does not mean giving up on love. It means giving up on fear, control, and attachment. It means allowing love to exist in its purest, most expansive form, free, conscious, and aligned with the highest good of all involved. When you surrender, you step into a new dimension of the twin flame journey, where growth, healing, and connection unfold naturally, effortlessly, and beautifully. As we move deeper into the twin flame journey, we encounter one of the most challenging and transformative aspects, betrayal and the karmic lessons it carries. In the intensity of a twin flame connection, feelings of betrayal often emerge, not necessarily because one soul intends harm, but because unresolved karma, unfinished lessons, and deep-seated fears surface. Betrayal in this context is rarely personal in the ordinary sense. It is a reflection of the internal blocks, fears, and unresolved patterns that both souls carry from past lives and current experiences. Consider the story of Daniel, who believed he had finally found his twin flame in a relationship that seemed destined. Early on, their connection was electrifying. Moments of profound intimacy and telepathic understanding created the illusion of perfect alignment. Yet, over time, subtle betrayals emerged. Broken promises, unexpected withdrawals, and moments of emotional distance that left Daniel reeling. He felt anger, confusion, and heartbreak. On the surface, it appeared as if his twin flame was acting inconsistently or even disloyally. But the deeper truth was more complex. In twin flame dynamics, karma plays a central role. Karma, in this context, refers to the unresolved emotional debts, lessons, and energetic imprints carried from previous lifetimes. These karmic patterns are not punishments. They are opportunities for growth and healing. When betrayal arises in a twin flame relationship, it often reflects unfinished emotional business from the past, lessons about trust, self-worth, boundaries, forgiveness, and unconditional love. For Daniel, the betrayal he experienced was a mirror, reflecting not only the patterns he needed to heal within himself, but also the karmic dynamics that his twin flame brought to the connection. One of the most important lessons in the face of betrayal is discernment. Discernment allows us to differentiate between actions motivated by malice and actions that trigger our deepest insecurities. Often, what feels like betrayal is actually a mirror of our own fears. Daniel discovered that much of his suffering came not from his twin flame's actions, but from his own interpretations and unresolved trauma. By stepping back and observing without immediate judgment, he began to recognize patterns of projection, old wounds being activated in the present moment. Another profound aspect of betrayal in the twin flame journey is the invitation to reclaim personal power. Betrayal can evoke feelings of helplessness, victimhood, or dependency. The key to transformation is to take ownership of your emotional response rather than trying to control the other person. This does not mean excusing harmful behavior, but rather understanding the lessons embedded in the experience and using them as a catalyst for growth. Daniel began setting clear boundaries, articulating his needs, and responding to challenging situations from a place of conscious choice rather than reactive emotion. Karmic lessons often revolve around several key themes. 1. Trust. Betrayal challenges our ability to trust, not just the other person but ourselves. Can we trust our discernment, our intuition, and our capacity to navigate uncertainty? 2. Forgiveness. Betrayal pushes us to forgive, not necessarily to condone behavior, but to release resentment and emotional bondage. Forgiveness frees the heart and opens space for conscious love. 3. Boundaries. Betrayal teaches us to define what is acceptable in a relationship and to honor our own emotional needs. Healthy boundaries protect the heart while allowing love to flourish. 4. Self-worth. Betrayal often triggers old wounds related to self-esteem. Karmic lessons encourage us to recognize that our worth is inherent and not contingent upon another's actions. 5. Letting go of control. Betrayal invites surrender, acknowledging that we cannot control every action or outcome, and that love thrives in freedom rather than possession. Daniel's journey illustrates these lessons vividly. Initially, he reacted to betrayal with anger and a desire to control or fix the situation. His ego interpreted every withdrawal as personal rejection, while his inner child felt abandoned and unworthy. But as he engaged in healing practices, mindfulness, journaling, boundary setting, and self-compassion, he began to see the karmic dimension of the experience. He understood that the betrayal was not a reflection of his value or his twin flame's love, but an opportunity to release old patterns, integrate his lessons, and grow spiritually. Betrayal in a twin flame connection can also illuminate shadow aspects of ourselves. Often we project onto others the traits we refuse to acknowledge within ourselves. When Daniel experienced emotional withdrawal from his twin flame, it triggered not only past abandonment wounds, but also his own tendencies toward controlling behavior and fear-driven attachment. Recognizing these shadow aspects is essential for transformation. By owning his projections, Daniel could respond consciously rather than react impulsively, transforming pain into self-awareness. Practical steps to navigate betrayal and karmic lessons in twin flame relationships include: pause and reflect. Instead of reacting immediately, take a moment to breathe and observe your emotions. Ask, what is my fear really about? What pattern is being triggered? Journaling and self-inquiry. Write down the emotions, questions, and insights that arise. This clarifies the distinction between external events and internal projections. Inner child work. Comfort the part of you that feels hurt or abandoned. Validate its feelings while reassuring it that you are capable of self-support. Boundary setting. Clearly define what you will accept and communicate your needs assertively and lovingly. Energy release practices. Techniques like meditation, breathwork, or Reiki can help release energetic attachments to the pain of betrayal. Forgiveness practice. Engage in forgiveness exercises, not necessarily forgiving the actions themselves, but freeing yourself from the emotional weight of resentment. A critical shift occurs when betrayal is reframed not as a personal attack, but as a lesson in emotional sovereignty. Daniel realized that the essence of the twin flame journey is not to avoid pain, but to navigate it consciously, integrating lessons and emerging stronger. Betrayal became a mirror of his own unhealed wounds and an invitation to embrace self-love, trust, and conscious engagement. One of the most transformative insights about karmic lessons is the recognition that love and suffering are intertwined, but not inseparable. The intensity of twin flame connections magnifies both joy and pain, but it also accelerates spiritual growth. Every moment of perceived betrayal is an opportunity to deepen awareness, release old patterns, and expand emotional capacity. Daniel learned that by confronting betrayal with courage and conscious choice, he could experience a love that was profoundly liberating, rather than confining or fear-driven. Furthermore, karmic lessons teach compassion, not only for the other but for oneself. Often we judge ourselves harshly for feeling pain, anger, or jealousy in response to betrayal. The twin flame journey encourages gentle self-compassion, recognizing that your emotions are valid, natural, and a reflection of your growth path. By embracing this compassion, Daniel cultivated emotional resilience, clarity, and the ability to navigate the relationship with wisdom and grace. Finally, betrayal and karmic lessons bring us to a pivotal question. Can you love without attachment? Can you honor your own heart while allowing the other soul freedom? This is the ultimate challenge of the twin flame journey. To integrate the lessons of ego, inner child, healing, surrender, and karma into a love that is conscious, liberating, and transformative. In conclusion, betrayal in twin flame relationships is rarely what it seems. It is a catalyst for growth, a mirror for unresolved patterns, and a teacher of emotional mastery. By embracing the karmic dimension, practicing self-awareness, setting boundaries, and engaging in forgiveness, you transform betrayal from a source of pain into a doorway to liberation. Daniel's experience shows that the twin flame journey, even in its most challenging moments, offers profound opportunities for healing, self-discovery, and the cultivation of love that is both free and eternal. As you reflect on your own journey, ask yourself, what karmic patterns are being reflected in my relationship? What lessons can I learn from betrayal or pain? Am I willing to engage with these challenges consciously, with love and awareness, rather than reacting from fear or attachment? The answers lie within, and the path of transformation is illuminated by your willingness to face it with courage, presence, and an open heart. As we continue through the twin flame journey, one of the most profound layers to explore is the soul mission and the concept of unfinished business. Unlike ordinary relationships, twin flames are not only partners in love, they are mirrors, teachers, and catalysts for spiritual growth. Every encounter, every challenge, and every moment of intensity often serves a higher purpose: to align both souls with their spiritual mission, and to resolve lessons that have carried over from past lives. Understanding this dimension is essential to navigating the trials and revelations of a twin flame connection. Consider the story of Marcus, a man who met his twin flame during a period of personal transformation. Their connection was immediate, magnetic, and overwhelmingly intense. Yet, despite the depth of their bond, Marcus noticed recurring conflicts, repeated misunderstandings, and moments of separation that seemed to echo unresolved issues from his past. Each reunion and each challenge felt like a test, not of love alone, but of his ability to embody patience, compassion, and conscious awareness. Marcus realized that their connection was not solely about romantic fulfillment. It was about fulfilling a shared soul mission. Soul mission in the context of twin flames refers to the higher purpose that both individuals are meant to achieve, often extending beyond the personal and into the collective. This mission can manifest in various forms: healing unresolved trauma, learning profound lessons about love and forgiveness, awakening spiritual consciousness, or contributing positively to the world in a way that aligns with their highest good. Twin flames often find that their connection accelerates spiritual evolution, revealing both strengths and areas for growth that may have lain dormant for lifetimes. Unfinished business is closely intertwined with the soul mission. These are unresolved patterns, emotional wounds, or karmic lessons that have persisted across multiple lifetimes. Twin flames often meet because these lessons require completion. What may appear as repeated conflict, betrayal, or emotional turbulence is often the soul's way of revisiting unresolved issues to integrate wisdom and healing. For Marcus, every conflict with his twin flame mirrored aspects of abandonment, self-doubt, and fear of intimacy that he had experienced not only in this life but in prior incarnations. The interplay between soul mission and unfinished business creates a powerful dynamic. It is both challenging and transformative. Marcus realized that the moments of tension were not arbitrary. They were invitations to face his shadows, confront his fears, and align with his higher purpose. These experiences forced him to grow emotionally, spiritually, and relationally, cultivating resilience, empathy, and self-awareness that would serve his soul mission. One of the most important lessons in understanding the soul mission and unfinished business is perspective. The twin flame connection reframes ordinary conflicts as sacred opportunities for growth. When Marcus experienced what felt like betrayal or withdrawal, he began asking a different question. What is this teaching me? What lesson am I being invited to integrate? This shift in perspective transformed the emotional turbulence into a pathway for self-discovery and empowerment. Unfinished business often centers around several key areas. 1. Healing past emotional wounds. Past traumas, particularly those related to trust, attachment, and self-worth, are often revisited in a twin flame connection. These unresolved experiences are opportunities for conscious healing and integration. 2. Releasing patterns of codependency or fear. Twin flames frequently reflect areas where one has relied on external validation or control to feel safe. These patterns are highlighted to foster independence, self-trust, and authentic emotional expression. 3. Embodying unconditional love. One of the deepest lessons in twin flame connections is learning to love without attachment or expectation. Unfinished business often challenges individuals to cultivate love that is conscious, compassionate, and freeing. 4. Integration of shadow aspects. The connection often triggers shadow elements, anger, jealousy, fear, or control tendencies. Recognizing and integrating these aspects is essential for personal growth and relational harmony. 5. Alignment with spiritual purpose. Twin flames act as mirrors for each other's divine potential. Challenges arise to guide both souls toward fulfilling their soul mission in alignment with their higher path. Marcus's journey illustrates the profound nature of this process. At first, he struggled with the intensity of the connection. Emotional storms, miscommunications, and moments of separation made him question the validity of the bond. Yet, as he reflected on their interactions through the lens of soul mission and unfinished business, he began to see each challenge as a carefully designed lesson. He realized that their connection was less about immediate gratification or ease and more about spiritual maturation, emotional resilience, and the embodiment of conscious love. A crucial aspect of navigating unfinished business is self-reflection and conscious choice. Twin flame interactions often bring up old fears and reactive patterns, but the journey becomes transformative when these moments are met with awareness rather than automatic response. Marcus practiced this by pausing before reacting, asking himself, is this response coming from fear or from my higher self? Am I perpetuating old patterns, or am I choosing a conscious path? This practice allowed him to transform conflict into insight and pain into empowerment. Another essential element is empathy and compassion for the other soul. Unfinished business is rarely one-sided. Twin flames reflect each other's unresolved wounds, which means that challenges often arise from the interplay of both partners' past experiences. Marcus learned that by cultivating empathy, he could observe his twin flames' behavior without judgment, understanding that their reactions were often mirrors of their own past wounds. This perspective created space for patience, understanding, and conscious engagement. Practical strategies for addressing soul mission and unfinished business include journaling for insight. Document recurring patterns, emotional triggers, and lessons that emerge in the connection. Reflect on how these may connect to past experiences or karmic patterns. Meditation and visualization. Engage in practices that connect you to your higher self and divine guidance. Visualize releasing old patterns and stepping into your soul's purpose. Inner child work. Continue nurturing the inner child, as unresolved emotional wounds from early life often tie directly into unfinished business in the twin flame connection. Shadow integration. Identify recurring negative emotions or reactive patterns. Explore their roots and consciously choose responses aligned with growth rather than fear. Collaborative reflection. When possible, communicate openly with your twin flame about patterns, challenges, and growth opportunities, fostering mutual understanding and conscious partnership. Ultimately, the recognition of soul mission and unfinished business transforms the twin flame connection from a source of confusion or emotional turbulence into a sacred journey of growth. The intensity of the connection is not a problem to be fixed, but but a reflection of the depth and significance of the shared mission. Marcus realized that the challenges he faced were not obstacles, but stepping stones toward greater self-mastery, alignment with his higher purpose, and the ability to love with authenticity and freedom. The beauty of this stage is the shift from personal attachment to higher awareness. Instead of focusing solely on how the connection serves his desires, Marcus began to ask, how does this relationship help me fulfill my soul mission? How does it allow both of us to grow spiritually and emotionally? This perspective elevated the connection from ordinary relational experiences into a transformative spiritual journey. In conclusion, understanding soul mission and unfinished business in a twin flame connection provides clarity, purpose, and meaning to even the most challenging experiences. By recognizing karmic patterns, embracing growth opportunities, and engaging in conscious reflection, both individuals can transform their connection into a powerful vehicle for spiritual evolution. Marcus's story demonstrates that what may initially appear as emotional chaos or repeated conflict can become a profound teacher, guiding both souls toward healing, integration, and alignment with their highest purpose. As you contemplate your own twin flame journey, ask yourself, what lessons am I meant to learn in this connection? What unfinished business is being reflected to me? How can I embrace my soul mission while navigating challenges with awareness, compassion, and conscious choice? Answering these questions opens the door to profound transformation, helping you step into a connection that is not only deeply loving, but also spiritually purposeful. As we continue the twin flame journey, we arrive at one of the most profound and transformative stages: forgiveness and release. In the context of a twin flame connection, these concepts are not simply about saying, "I forgive you," or letting go superficially. They are deep, intentional practices of liberation, self-mastery, and spiritual evolution. Forgiveness and release allow you to transcend pain, reclaim your power, and experience love that is free, conscious, and unconstrained by past wounds or karmic attachments. Consider the story of Sophia, who had been through years of intense connection and repeated cycles with her twin flame. Early in their relationship, moments of miscommunication, unspoken expectations, and emotional withdrawal created profound pain. Sophia felt hurt, betrayed, and sometimes abandoned. She struggled with resentment and clung to the desire for reconciliation on her terms. Her ego resisted the notion of forgiving what she perceived as repeated wrongs, while her inner child held on to fear and mistrust. Forgiveness in this context begins with acknowledgement. Sophia realized that to forgive genuinely, she first needed to acknowledge the depth of her own pain. Denial or minimization only prolongs suffering. She allowed herself to fully feel her emotions, anger, sorrow, confusion, and recognize them as valid responses to the challenges in the connection. This acknowledgement is the first step in reclaiming emotional agency and moving from reactive suffering to conscious processing. Importantly, forgiveness is not conditional. It does not require the other person to apologize, change, or even recognize the hurt they caused. Forgiveness is primarily a gift you give yourself. It is a conscious decision to release the emotional hold that past events, betrayals, or disappointments have over you. Sophia began to understand that holding on to resentment only amplified her suffering and blocked the natural flow of love and growth within her connection. The process of release often begins with inner reflection. Sophia practiced asking herself, which parts of this pain are mine to carry? Which parts belong to the other person? And which parts are reflections of my own unmet needs or past wounds? This inquiry allowed her to differentiate between external events and internal responses, enabling a deeper, more conscious form of forgiveness. Release also involves letting go of attachment to outcomes. Often, in twin flame relationships, we cling to specific outcomes: reconciliation, validation, or permanent closeness. This attachment keeps us trapped in cycles of fear, control, and disappointment. Sophia learned that true release meant allowing the connection to exist in its natural flow, independent of her expectations. By releasing attachment, she freed herself from emotional bondage and opened space for authentic love and presence. Practical tools for forgiveness and release in twin flame dynamics include: 1. Meditation and breathwork. Sophia incorporated daily meditation sessions, focusing on inhaling peace and exhaling pain. Breathwork allowed her to consciously release emotional tension stored in her body, facilitating both mental and energetic clarity. 2. Journaling. She documented recurring triggers, emotional patterns, and reflections on her reactions. Writing enabled her to process emotions constructively and recognize where forgiveness was necessary. 3. Affirmations of self-liberation. Statements such as, "I release all that no longer serves me," "I forgive myself and others," "I choose freedom and love," reinforced her intention and helped rewire conditioned emotional responses. 4. Visualization exercises. Sophia visualized herself placing past grievances into a river, watching them float away, leaving her heart light, open, and free. Visualization provided a symbolic and tangible sense of release. 5. Energy healing practices. Reiki, chakra balancing, or energy clearing helped Sophia remove energetic imprints of hurt, resentment, and attachment that had accumulated over repeated cycles. Forgiveness also intersects deeply with compassion, both for oneself and the other soul. In twin flame dynamics, it is common to hold harsh judgments, believing that anger or resentment validates the pain. Sophia realized that true forgiveness required seeing the situation and the other person with empathy, recognizing that their actions were often driven by their own unresolved wounds, fears, and karmic lessons. This perspective transformed her emotional experience, shifting from judgment to understanding. Another critical layer of release is the integration of the shadow self. Twin flame connections are mirrors that reflect not only the other person's patterns, but also our own hidden or unacknowledged aspects. Sophia discovered that some of her resentment stemmed from parts of herself she had refused to see: fear of abandonment, desire for control, and lingering doubts about self-worth. By integrating these shadow aspects, she could forgive both herself and her twin flame more authentically, freeing herself from reactive cycles. Forgiveness and release are also acts of empowerment. By choosing to release pain, Sophia reclaimed her agency. She realized that she did not need external validation or reconciliation to feel whole. Her emotional sovereignty allowed her to participate in the twin flame connection from a place of freedom and choice rather than fear or dependency. In essence, release does not weaken love, it strengthens it, transforming attachment into conscious, unconditional connection. This process often brings profound spiritual insights. Sophia observed that every moment of perceived betrayal or emotional turbulence carried a hidden gift: the chance to awaken to higher consciousness, self-compassion, and universal love. By embracing forgiveness and release, she accessed a state of heart-centered awareness where she could experience intimacy and connection without losing herself or her peace. It is important to note that forgiveness does not negate boundaries. Release is not synonymous with tolerating abuse or neglect. Sophia continued to set healthy emotional and relational boundaries, ensuring that her freedom and self-respect were protected. Boundaries create a safe container for love to exist consciously, while release frees the heart from the prison of resentment and unresolved emotion. One of the most transformative insights about forgiveness in the twin flame journey is the recognition that holding on hurts more than letting go. When we cling to past grievances, we perpetuate cycles of pain, self-judgment, and emotional dependency. By consciously releasing these attachments, we liberate ourselves from repetitive suffering and open the heart to a higher form of connection. Sophia's story demonstrates that forgiveness and release are not passive acts. They are powerful, deliberate, and conscious steps toward emotional freedom. Forgiveness and release also prepare the soul for integration with the twin flame's higher purpose. Once past wounds, karmic triggers, and reactive patterns are resolved, both individuals can engage in the connection fully, consciously, and harmoniously. Sophia found that as she practiced forgiveness, she could navigate the intensity of the twin flame bond without being consumed by fear, resentment, or unmet expectations. The relationship became a source of growth, support, and expansive love, rather than repeated suffering. As you reflect on your own journey, consider these guiding questions. What am I holding on to that no longer serves me? Where have I been resisting the natural flow of love? Can I forgive myself and my twin flame, not for their sake but for my own liberation? These questions are invitations to cultivate emotional freedom and to step into a space of conscious love, resilience, and spiritual alignment. In conclusion, Forgiveness and release are pivotal stages in the twin flame journey. They transform pain into wisdom, attachment into freedom, and suffering into spiritual growth. Sophia's experience teaches that forgiveness is not about condoning actions or forgetting wounds. It is about reclaiming your power, clearing emotional blocks, and allowing love to exist in its purest, most expansive form. Release in this sense is liberation. A conscious, empowering choice to experience love without attachment, resentment, or fear. Ultimately, the practice of forgiveness and release opens the door to love without limitation, allowing you to engage with your twin flame from a place of presence, understanding, and conscious choice. It is a sacred invitation to rise above the cycles of karma, pain, and reactive attachment, stepping into a connection that nurtures both growth and freedom. After exploring ego, inner child work, healing, surrender, karmic lessons, soul mission, and forgiveness, we arrive at one of the most transformative stages of the twin flame journey, loving without attachment. This stage is the culmination of all prior work. It is where love becomes both freeing and conscious, where you can engage deeply with your twin flame without losing your autonomy, peace, or sense of self. Loving without attachment does not mean detachment from feelings or indifference. Rather, it is the practice of embracing love fully while releasing the need to control, possess, or dictate outcomes. Consider the story of Amelia, a woman who had been through intense cycles of closeness and separation with her twin flame. In the beginning, her love was entangled with fear, dependency, and expectation. She wanted constant reassurance, feared abandonment, and felt her self-worth was directly tied to the actions of her twin flame. This attachment, while rooted in deep love, created cycles of anxiety, jealousy, and emotional turmoil. Amelia realized that true love required something far more profound: the courage to love freely without conditions and without attachment to the outcome of the relationship. Attachment, in the context of relationships, often manifests as fear of loss, obsessive thoughts, controlling behavior, or conditional love. In twin flame dynamics, attachment can be particularly intense because these connections reflect both souls' unresolved patterns and karmic ties. The intensity is amplified by the deep mirror effect. Your twin flame mirrors not only your joys and desires but also your fears and unhealed wounds. Loving without attachment requires recognizing this mirror and responding consciously rather than reactively. One of the first steps toward loving without attachment is self-awareness. Amelia began by observing her own patterns. When did she feel anxious, jealous, or controlling? Which moments triggered her fear of losing the connection? By bringing conscious awareness to these patterns, she could choose how to respond rather than be swept away by impulse or emotion. Awareness is the gateway to freedom. It allows you to disentangle your love from your ego-driven needs. Practicing unconditional love is central to loving without attachment. Unconditional love is not passive or naive. It is the deliberate choice to honor the other soul's journey while remaining whole yourself. Amelia learned that loving unconditionally meant supporting her twin flame's growth, respecting their freedom, and embracing the connection as it was, rather than as she wished it to be. This required courage and trust. Trust in the process, trust in divine timing, and trust in her own inner guidance. Another critical aspect of loving without attachment is emotional sovereignty. Emotional sovereignty means taking full responsibility for your feelings and reactions, rather than placing that burden on your twin flame. Amelia practiced recognizing that her peace, happiness, and sense of worth did not depend on another person's behavior. She cultivated internal sources of joy, validation, and security, which allowed her to engage with the relationship from a place of strength and centeredness, rather than fear and neediness. Loving without attachment also involves non-possessive presence. This means being fully present with your twin flame without attempting to control their actions, decisions, or emotions. Amelia discovered that by practicing non-possessive presence, she could enjoy deep intimacy without being consumed by it. She could celebrate their closeness while maintaining her own individuality and freedom. This form of love is liberating. It allows both souls to flourish without restriction. Mindful communication is an essential practice in this stage. When Amelia felt triggered or emotional, she learned to pause and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. She practiced speaking from her truth while maintaining compassion and understanding. This approach transformed potential conflicts into opportunities for connection, clarity, and mutual growth. Loving without attachment is closely linked to trust, both in yourself and in the journey. Amelia had to trust her own inner guidance, intuition, and capacity for resilience. She also had to trust that the twin flame connection would unfold according to divine timing, even if it involved temporary distance, challenges, or uncertainty. Trust alleviates the need for control and allows love to flow naturally, without constriction or obsession. A crucial insight Amelia discovered is that love without attachment does not mean a lack of intensity or passion. On the contrary, it allows for deeper intimacy, authenticity, and emotional depth. When both souls can engage without fear, manipulation, or neediness, the connection becomes a space for mutual growth, profound understanding, and transformative love. The intensity remains, but it is now experienced as a shared journey, rather than a source of suffering. Practical strategies for cultivating love without attachment include: 1. Daily mindfulness practice. Observe your emotions without judgment. Notice when attachment, fear, or neediness arises and consciously release it. 2. Affirmations for freedom in love. Repeat statements like, "I love freely and consciously. I honor my heart and theirs." Love flows without attachment or control. 3. Inner reflection. Journal about moments when attachment arises. Ask, "What am I truly afraid of? How can I choose love over fear?" 4. Energetic boundaries. Practice visualizations or exercises to maintain your emotional and energetic space while remaining connected. 5. Gratitude for presence. Focus on appreciating your twin flame as they are, without imposing expectations or desires on the connection. Loving without attachment also intersects with spiritual surrender. Amelia realized that releasing attachment meant letting go of the need to control the timeline, outcomes, or actions of her twin flame. She allowed the connection to unfold naturally, trusting that the universe, divine guidance, and their individual growth paths were orchestrating the process for the highest good. This stage also deepens the practice of forgiveness. Loving without attachment often requires forgiving past mistakes, misunderstandings, and perceived betrayals. It involves forgiving not only the other soul but also yourself for holding on to expectations or reacting from fear. Forgiveness and release become the foundation for a love that is conscious, expansive, and liberating. One of the most profound lessons in loving without attachment is understanding that love is a state of being, not a transaction. Amelia learned that love is not about gaining approval, possession, or certainty. It is about presence, acceptance, and mutual growth. When you love from this state, the connection transcends fear, control, and insecurity, allowing both souls to experience freedom, intimacy, and profound spiritual alignment. In conclusion, loving without attachment is the embodiment of all previous lessons in the twin flame journey. Ego awareness, inner child healing, surrender, karmic understanding, soul mission, and forgiveness. It transforms love from a source of anxiety or neediness into a channel for freedom, conscious connection, and spiritual evolution. Amelia's story shows us that love, when unbound by attachment, can be powerful, transformative, and liberating. As you reflect on your own journey, ask yourself, can I love without clinging? Can I honor my own heart while embracing the presence of my twin flame? Am I willing to release control, expectation, and fear to experience love fully and consciously? Loving without attachment is a practice, a choice, and ultimately a gift, the gift of freedom, authenticity, and a love that transcends the ordinary. As we arrive at the final stage of the twin flame journey in this series, we enter the realm of integration and inspired action. After navigating the complexities of ego, inner child wounds, karmic patterns, soul mission, forgiveness, release, and loving without attachment, this stage is about bringing all these lessons into daily life. Integration is not a theoretical understanding. It is a lived, embodied process where the wisdom gained from the twin flame journey transforms your consciousness, relationships, and choices. Inspired action is the natural next step. It is how you apply this deep awareness to create meaningful change for yourself, your connection, and the world. Consider the story of Liam, who had been through years of emotional turbulence, separation cycles, and self-discovery in his twin flame connection. For a long time, he believed that personal growth and relationship mastery were separate endeavors. He worked on his career, friendships, and hobbies, while simultaneously navigating the intensity of his twin flame bond. Yet, the repeated cycles of emotional highs and lows left him exhausted, conflicted, and uncertain. It was only when he began integrating the lessons from every stage of the journey that he experienced a profound shift, a sense of wholeness, clarity, and purpose that transformed both his inner world and his connection. Integration begins with self-coherence, aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the highest version of yourself. This means moving beyond compartmentalized healing and allowing all aspects of your experience, pain, joy, challenges, and triumphs, to inform a holistic understanding of who you are. Liam realized that his past emotional reactions, experiences of betrayal, moments of fear, and periods of intense love were not obstacles. They were data points for transformation, providing insight into his values, boundaries, and soul's purpose. One of the first practical steps toward integration is consolidating emotional mastery. This involves observing patterns without judgment, acknowledging triggers, and consciously choosing responses that align with your highest self. Liam began journaling his recurring emotional patterns and reflecting on how they connected to past wounds, karmic lessons, and areas where he had previously projected his fears onto his twin flame. By consciously identifying these patterns, he could act from awareness rather than impulse. Another crucial aspect of integration is embodying the lessons learned from forgiveness and release. Holding on to resentment or lingering expectations not only distorts your perception of the twin flame connection, but also blocks personal growth. Liam practiced daily reflection, asking, "Am I still holding on to past pain or fear? How can I release what no longer serves me?" This intentional practice reinforced his commitment to emotional freedom and prepared him to act from clarity rather than reaction. Integration also involves aligning with your soul mission in tangible ways. Twin flame connections are mirrors that accelerate spiritual evolution, but they also serve as a catalyst to manifest your purpose in the material world. Liam noticed that the clarity gained from his twin flame journey allowed him to pursue creative projects, meaningful collaborations, and community-oriented initiatives with greater authenticity and courage. The lessons of empathy, patience, unconditional love, and resilience directly informed his ability to lead, inspire, and contribute positively. A key component of this stage is intentional relationship navigation. Integration does not mean passivity. It means engaging consciously in the twin flame connection while honoring your autonomy and boundaries. Liam learned to communicate with honesty, clarity, and compassion, addressing challenges without blame and celebrating moments of connection without attachment. Inspired action in relationships involves creating a shared space of mutual growth, understanding, and alignment with the higher purpose of the connection. Mind-body integration practices also support this stage. The twin flame journey is not only emotional and spiritual, but also energetic. Practices such as meditation, breathwork, yoga, and energy healing help to consolidate lessons into the body, allowing the nervous system and energetic field to align with higher consciousness. Liam incorporated daily meditation sessions to anchor insights, regulate emotional responses, and maintain equilibrium amidst the intensity of his connection. Integration also calls for service and contribution beyond the personal sphere. Twin flame lessons often extend into collective impact. The compassion, understanding, and wisdom cultivated in the relationship can be applied to communities, creative endeavors, or global initiatives. Liam discovered that as he embodied conscious love, he could mentor others in healing, facilitate workshops on emotional intelligence, and engage in projects that elevated collective awareness. This outward expression of lessons reinforces inner transformation, creating a cycle where personal growth fuels meaningful action. A central insight of this stage is balance between presence and flow. Integration is not rigid or prescriptive. It is dynamic. Liam learned to honor the flow of life, recognizing that moments of separation, challenge, or uncertainty are part of the natural rhythm of the twin flame journey. At the same time, he cultivated presence, choosing to engage fully in each moment with awareness, intentionality, and authenticity. This balance between flow and presence creates a resilient foundation for both personal and relational growth. Practical steps to fully integrate the twin flame journey include: 1. Daily reflection and journaling. Document insights, emotional triggers, and patterns to maintain clarity and track progress. 2. Embodied practices. Engage in meditation, yoga, breathwork, or movement to anchor insights in the body and energy system. 3. Conscious communication. Speak from awareness, honesty, and compassion in all interactions, particularly with your twin flame. 4. Alignment with life purpose. Apply the wisdom gained from the connection to work, creative projects, and acts of service. 5. Gratitude and celebration. Acknowledge the growth, lessons, and love present in your journey, reinforcing positive neural and emotional patterns. 6. Setting inspired intentions. Consciously choose actions that reflect your highest self, values, and soul mission. Integration also emphasizes living the principles learned in love without attachment. Liam realized that love in action is not passive. It requires courage, discernment, and active choice. It is the application of empathy, patience, presence, and unconditional love to everyday life. By embodying these qualities, the twin flame connection transforms from a source of emotional turbulence into a wellspring of inspiration, wisdom, and spiritual expansion. Ultimately, integration and inspired action invite a holistic transformation of self. The twin flame journey, when fully integrated, becomes a platform for conscious living. A life where emotional intelligence, spiritual awareness, and relational maturity are interwoven into every choice, interaction, and endeavor. Liam's experience demonstrates that the culmination of the journey is not merely a romantic union, but a complete alignment of mind, heart, and soul. As you reflect on your own path, consider these questions. How can I integrate the lessons from my twin flame connection into my daily life? What inspired actions can I take that honor my growth and purpose? Am I willing to live fully from awareness, compassion, and conscious choice, both within and beyond my connection? The answers guide you toward embodying love as a living practice, transforming every aspect of your life into an expression of conscious alignment and spiritual fulfillment. In conclusion, integration and inspired action are the culmination of the twin flame journey. They take the wisdom gained from ego healing, inner child work, karmic lessons, soul mission, forgiveness, release, and loving without attachment, and translate it into lived, conscious, transformative action. This stage empowers you to engage with your twin flame from a place of freedom and clarity. Apply insights to personal growth, relationships, and life purpose. Contribute positively to the collective through acts of compassion and conscious action. Experience love and life fully without attachment, fear, or limitation. The twin flame journey is ultimately a call to become the highest version of yourself, not for the sake of perfection or control, but to create a life of conscious love, meaningful connection, and inspired purpose. As Liam discovered, the greatest gift of the journey is not only the love shared with your twin flame but the transformation of your own soul, an awakening that radiates into every aspect of life. Video description: 300+ words. Have you ever felt that your twin flame challenges your heart in ways no one else can? Twin flame relationships are intense, deeply spiritual connections that often mirror our deepest wounds, fears, and unresolved karma. In this video, we explore how to navigate the most difficult moments, from betrayal and heartbreak to letting go and surrendering, while still honoring your connection. You will discover practical strategies for healing your inner child, managing ego-driven reactions, and releasing old patterns that no longer serve you. By understanding the soul mission behind twin flame connections, you can recognize that every challenge is an opportunity for spiritual growth and emotional mastery. We dive into the power of forgiveness and conscious release, showing how these practices can transform pain into freedom. Learn how to love without attachment, maintain emotional sovereignty, and step into your highest self while honoring your twin flame connection. This video guides you through actionable steps to integrate lessons from every stage of your journey, from initial challenges to inspired action, helping you cultivate conscious, unconditional love. Whether you're currently facing separation, betrayal, or intense emotional storms with your twin flame, this video provides insight, clarity, and tools to help you navigate the journey with grace and empowerment. Watch and reflect on your connection, embrace the lessons, and step into a path of healing and conscious love. CTA. If this video resonates with you, hit the like button, subscribe for more insights on twin flame journeys, and share your experiences in the comments below. Your story may inspire someone else on their path of healing and growth. Keywords repeated 5 times. Twin flame, twin flame, twin flame, twin flame, twin flame. Hashtags, 500 characters. Twin flame journey, twin flame healing, conscious love, forgiveness, inner child healing, love without attachment, spiritual growth, karma, soul mission, relationship healing, letting go, twin flame separation, unconditional love, mindful love.